Hi and welcome to Design a Garden. I'm Melanie Walker. Now in this series we're going to be having a look at design icons who have pretty much informed the way we think about gardening today. In today's show we're going to be hanging out with a bunch of students who've been tasked with bringing the imagination of Dermot Gavin to life. Just who is Dermot Gavin? Well, he is of course the Irish garden designer and television personality who is famed for his avant-garde, somewhat unusual contemporary gardens. He studied amenity horticulture at the Botanic Gardens in Glasnevin, Dublin, and later established his own garden design business. He's displayed at the prestigious Royal Horticultural Society Chelsea Flower Show, where his gardens have not only gained him fans and foes alike, but elevated him to garden icon status. In 2011, he won a gold medal for his Irish Sky Garden, showcased at the Chelsea Flower Show. I'm off to touch base with landscape design lecturer Michael Rickhoff to find out what the students have come up with. Michael, this group were tasked with creating a Dermot Gavin style garden.
Which is a hard act to follow.
Yes, very much so.
So, well, I suppose, all the students were challenged in terms of, having to follow a design icon. And Dermot, of course, is a contemporary design icon. So, we have to look at his contemporary work. And I think the most important thing to remember is we're not asking the students to replicate a Dermot garden. We're asking them to look at Dermot's style and to let that style come through their design, so that when you look at it, you say, that's got Dermot Gavin written on it, but it's not a Dermot Gavin garden necessarily.
So how well do you think that they've come up with an idea here, if we look at the plan and at the model, that would kind of encapsulate his style?
There are a lot of zooty things in the garden that they've actually thought about, and I think, the way they've actually done this grass intercepting the path, it's a lovely dynamic, it's a lovely play on line, and I think Dermot does that kind of thing. They've done quite a bit of mass planting of Anthericum or Chlorophytum, I want to say, which I think is what Dermot would do. He's looking at the grasses and whatnot. And then they've done these rounded kind of shrubberies, which I think Dermot kind of does as well. And of course the mounding. Dermot loves mounding. So they've also tried to create an interesting feature, something that you come across and say, well, I wouldn't have thought of that. And that's a Dermot type of thing. Is
there kind of flow going through this garden?
There's lovely rhythm in this garden. And I think if the space comes out as the students have planned, it's going to be quite a spiritual place. It's going to be a very, very comfortable place. And I think what they're trying to do is to create a glade type of feeling.
Let's have a look at this garden in 3 dimensions.
There we go.
And immediately, something you don't see on the plan is this amazing pink wall with little daisy motifs on it.
Yeah, these are going to be pavers. Now, there's another idea, is how many times do we look at pavers and say, well, pavers are for horizontal space or floors. And now they're saying, well, we're going to put some on the wall. Okay, so there's the first Dermot thing. And I think they're going to play around maybe with the pattern a little bit, a la Dermot.
Yes.
The other thing is they've got these large steel leaves that they're going to be putting inside the garden in some sort of pattern, just sticking out of the grasses, which I think is also a great idea because it's very unusual. And these things are probably designed to be wall-mounted things, and I think they're going to have them sticking out of the plants.
I would take them and make a flying thing somehow above your head.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ideas. Well, I'm sure you would. and over here, I don't know if they've thought about it yet, but they're going to be doing some sort of sculpture. But they're going to maybe just walk around and look for something that's different and do something different with it. We don't know yet, but they're going to surprise us, hopefully. Once again, this is a model, it's a concept. Let them build the garden and let's see how close they get to the concept.
But one thing that this team did have a problem with, of course, was getting the garden right. And I think this was their 3rd incarnation of a garden, the way that they thought it would work in
terms of planning. Yeah, and I think that's maybe where the challenge comes in with Dermot. And with a lot of designers, you look at their stuff and you think, well, how hard can this be? But when you start doing it, you say, how do they get that feel? How do they get that look? And I think that's what the students have had to kind of battle with a little bit to see, is it actually coming through as a Dermot garden or is it coming through as just a garden?
Dermot's designs are uncompromising, functional, and sometimes startling. For some people, they are just too weird and outrageous, but they do show how certain looks can be achieved in small places. The students are faced with just as a small space, if not smaller, to build their gardens, which must be completed in a mere 3 weeks. The first order of business is to put all the hardscaping elements in place. This starts with the laying down of a zigzag pathway and cylindrical water features. With a pre-existing blank wall, work commences with the careful placement of pavers in a daisy flower motif before the wall gets plastered. With time ticking away, we'll have to see how the team will put this one together. So after the break, we'll catch up with them after their first week of heavy, intensive labour has been done. It looks as if a fair amount of work has been accomplished, although it's not really going to their original plan. Well, the wall has been painted white and the bright pink paint is also making its way onto the scene. Time to catch up with the team. When it comes to modern garden design, there's one name that I'm sure everybody has heard of, and of course that is the mad Irishman Dermot Gavin. Now, he's really well known for his use of very strange things in the garden, things you wouldn't normally find there, like strange coloured discs and walls very close to the ground, and of course his trademark daisy, be it in plants or in furniture. And it's an inimitable style. So how are our students, who are not supposed to be imitating, going to get this one right? You had a bit of a problem on your team, didn't you?
Unfortunately, we had a really good design, which I appreciated, and we all, put a lot of effort into it. But at the end of it, unfortunately, it was a bit too, I could say, monotonous, and it wasn't Dermot Gavin, which was, our theme. So we had to start from scratch after everyone else had actually done it. We're pretty much building while we're designing at the same time.
Okay, but I mean, you're like quite far ahead with your design.
Yeah, it's going quite well. I'm really enjoying it. We're all, quite passionate about it. Said it's really hard to gain an influence from Dermot Gavin when he's so, iconic and so unique.
And everybody knows who he is and is going to sit and look at your work and say, but where are those little round discs and where are your balls around the ground and all of that kind of stuff?
I would say, a major important factor to take into it is that, Dermot Gavin is unique. And in that, getting him as an inspiration, we have to become unique ourselves. So that is the area of influence rather than being him.
But this is actually coming together quite well. I mean, the pathway, explain this to me.
Well, basically what's happening is we've got a circle here with pebbles, and then we're going to be putting lemon thyme going through the middle, and we're going to have a concrete paver in the center point there as well, so it's going to be a pointed X. Right. And that same pattern is going to follow through all the way around to the back there, and there's going to be a bench going in the corner there with these corkscrews as a kind of like a willow effect.
Okay.
Our original idea was Axis Mundi, and Axis Mundi means the center ground between heaven and earth.
Yeah.
And so the original idea was to have these as hilltops, like effects of mountaintops going through the garden while you're walking through it.
Yeah.
And we're trying to keep that idea, but we're also taking the Caryopensys and putting them as blobs over there, just for more interest sake of flowers. My first original fear was, I looked at his designs and he had the massive eye by the crane hanging off the roof, and I was like, how am I going to do that? But then realized, break it down, make it less complicated, and we can get something beautiful.
I hope the students and lecturers will finally settle on something workable and hope for the best. Well, with some of the bigger plants such as willow trees coming in, let's take a closer look at some of the plants that are going into this garden. The Chinese or corkscrew willow is a small to medium-sized, upright spreading tree of about 10 meters in height with a 5-meter spread. The main ornamental feature of this plant is the contorted and twisted branches and twigs. Flowers are born in catkins produced early in the spring, and its branches and twigs grow in a spiral twisting manner. As a result, the ornamental shape of the branches and twigs, this cultivar is commonly used as a bonsai plant and for floral arrangements. Like many willows, this one does best in moist areas but will tolerate some drought. The arum lily. Well, with its exotic-sounding botanical name and unique and unusual appearance, it's hard to believe that Xantadeschia hails predominantly from our fair shores. There are 5 species of this remarkable bulb that derive from all areas of southern Africa, and each species is as beautiful and remarkable as the next. For all its marvelous beauty and grandeur, Xantadeschia is in fact a wonderfully simple bulb to grow and is sure to flourish in your garden in summer. This much-loved bulb is available in a stunning array of colors. Caryopteris, or bluebeard summer sorbet, forms a beautiful bushy low mound of green leaves, boldly edged in bright yellow. Clusters of rich blue flowers are a dramatic contrast in late summer and are attractive to butterflies. Although actually a woody shrub, bluebeard is usually cut back each spring to 6 inches and treated more like a perennial. The blue star creeper is a little creeping perennial which forms a flat carpet of tiny green leaves smothered with starry bright blue flowers all summer long. It's ideal for planting between paving stones, in the rock garden, or using as a lawn substitute. And it's even worth growing as an annual in colder areas. It has been 3 weeks since work began on this Dermot Gavin-inspired garden, and it looks like it's finally coming together as we saw in the model. Time to find out if the students are happy with what they've achieved. Now, I know that you guys had quite a few issues when it came to actually pulling this garden together. Changes and, whoa, technical problems.
We had a problem first time round where we had to redo our entire design, which included the model, the drawings, everything. And we started a second time round, and about 75% of the way, we realized it wasn't working. And, we just had to start all over again.
So what do you love about your garden?
I love the pink wall. I think it's dynamic, I think it's got energy, and it's a bit wacky with the pavers put on it and the one paver going off the edge there.
Yeah.
And it's got an energy about it, which I think starts to talk of Dermot Gavin's work.
And I see that you did try and get the balls. They're a little bit loose to what he would usually go through, but it's still there.
Yes. We used Caryopteris, which is, interestingly enough, it's an old-fashioned plant, very old-fashioned. It's just come back into the nurseries now. What's lovely about it is that it flowers all year round. And, we liked it, and when we looked at it, it looked very ball-like. But when you actually look at his work and you look and see how tightly clipped those balls are, I think we could have had a better impact if we had rather gone for that.
So now 3 changes to a garden.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would change?
Yes.
It's a never-ending process.
It's a never-ending process, and I think that's really the fantastic thing about gardening, and especially in the long run. There are a lot of things, and I think one of the things are the leaves. I think we could have made more of them. I think they're very Dermot Gavin-ish, and we're lucky to find them. But I think if we had done something like an umbrella effect, something to resonate with his daisies, and perhaps just done more than just put them in the ground. There's been a bit of controversy about the bicycle. Some people love it, some people hate it. Whether it in fact does go with the leaves.
But that's
a
a Dermot Gavin garden for you. Some people love them, and there's inverted pyramids and flying things.
Yes.
It's like you've got to have something that people are going to talk about.
Exactly.
One thing you really do need to keep in mind when it comes to gardening is that a garden is an ever-evolving being. It's not something which is static. And just as you might change your mind about what you're going to wear in a day, you may change your mind about what a garden is all about for you as well. So you have to sit and kind of be quite focused, especially if you're doing something like a show garden where you're given all these restrictions. But you know what the nice thing is? If you don't like something, you take it out, you can plant something else and change the entire feel. Paint a wall, put some different sculpture. You can't just start with a plan sometimes and say, well, it's going to be like that from beginning to end. Things change, especially when it comes to gardening. Coming up after the break, I take a closer look at the finished garden with landscape design lecturer Mike Rickhoff to see if this garden has managed to capture the spirit of Dermot Gavin in this bright and unique garden. Plus, there's our design tip of the week. We've been tracking landscaping students who have been creating a Dermot Gavin-inspired show garden, whose design ethos is to first and foremost create gardens that are beautiful, sometimes fun, and most importantly, spaces that appeal to all age groups. Dermot actually never seeks to create gardens that are controversial. However, some are designed to make people consider possibilities other than what is regarded as normal. Something that allows new perspectives on our capabilities and environment. This garden emulates the inimitable, giving it a new, fresh slant and South African flavour. So Michael, a Dermot Gavin garden, something after your own heart. I mean, especially as Dermot, when he was here, turned around and said that he reckons you're the best designer that he's come across so far.
Yeah, no, well, that was a huge compliment coming from him. But no, I'm a huge Dermot fan, and I find it difficult to be objective in a Dermot space, or something that's trying to emulate, let's say, a Dermot space.
And this garden, do you think that they've managed to get it without being Dermot, but kind of being Dermot?
There is Dermot in here. I mean, you can actually feel Dermot in here. There's a bit of quirkiness in the garden. The wall behind us, there's a petal missing out of the one space, which is what Dermot would do. bicycles piled on top of each other. He's kind of thinking. And, you know, I suppose really the brief to the students is not copy the designer, it's be inspired by the designer and try to get his feel in your garden.
Now, if you were doing a garden like this and you wanted to make it look like he's done the garden, what are the things that you would do specifically?
Well, you know, first of all, this path I would do exactly as it is. I'd probably mound it higher because he likes mounds. I might make some of the mounds just bare patches. And he likes to introduce planting contrast in his garden. You know, the pink reminds me of that raised garden you did at Chelsea. And I think we were talking about, yes, the bicycles are nice, but wow, wouldn't it have been great if we could have suspended them and hung them from something? So, I mean, these metal leaves that have been put around the garden, it's a kind of an unexpected little quirk. The back wall itself is an unexpected little quirk. And we're sitting in a sort of a glady area, which is, I think, maybe what Dermot would do. I don't know if he would have these seats in this garden. I think he would look for something a lot more radical. You know, that's just Dermot.
Well, he's never safe. And I suppose when it comes to doing something like a show garden, a lot of the time you have to play it safe because people are going to be looking at it and taking ideas home.
If somebody's looking at this garden from a public point of view, can you take parts of this garden and put it in your own garden? And there are lots of things that Dermot does that there's no way you can put in your garden. So
unless you're completely wacky like he is.
Unless you're completely wacky like he is, yeah. So, yeah, you know, I like the planting, for instance, with these arums and whatnot. I think it's a very nice mixed planting. I think it's the kind of thing he would do, that he would like, because it's stuff sticking out from grasses. So that kind of says Dermot to me.
The only other thing that would be missing from here is like to paint all of these concrete discs in kind of red primary colours. You know,
yeah, you
red,
could do something
blue,
crazy
red.
with those. But you know, the way they interact with each other, that's the kind of thing he would do. He wouldn't want you to walk on a straight path. He might, with these grasses, liriopes growing through the paver here, you have to step over them. And a lot of people say, why don't you leave a gap there? No, Dermot won't leave a gap there. He'll say, no, step over them. You know, he would actually make you step over them.
Now, as you said, with the bicycles, to have it flying across the sky, kind of shades of E.T. Another thing that I would maybe have done is he always uses things in an unexpected way. So yes, you've got these beautiful leaves in the garden, but why not kind of make a overhead cover, take them all together and put them around like that over your head?
You know, I just think that there's so many different ways you could look at doing something radical like Dermot, and that's what we're trying to say to people. When you're looking at Dermot Gavin, he's going to always do the unexpected. I've seen him do gardens for people as their residential, as their ordinary garden, where he's got something quirky inside the garden. He also seems to like the sexy seating stuff, the unusual seating stuff. You know, he'll have those big balls that you sit in, suspended from something, or you'll have a lounger in the middle of a garden. And you know, perhaps that's a good idea, is to make sure that you've got loungers somewhere, so that when you go into the garden you feel you can actually just go to sleep in the garden.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing he does.
Well, I personally would take these chairs out completely and just lie on the ground.
Lie on the ground? No, it's mentha. It's going to be nice.
It's going to smell fantastic. All right, let's. Here's a little tip that you can use when you're designing a garden, or maybe even when you're just changing the look of one. Don't be afraid to think out of the box by finding innovative ways of using materials that have been used traditionally in certain ways, such as these students have done with their round pavers that are being used on the wall. Gardening shouldn't be safe. Gardening should be fun. So whether it's a daisy or a specific colour that inspires you, go out there and just enjoy it. We'll be having more fun and games again next week here on Design a Garden. See you then.